May 7th, 2021. From El Cajon, California, this is episode 232 of You Can Bet On That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet On That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. My name is Mark Duvall, and sitting across from me is Dr. Mike.
Hello.
Mike, I want to thank you for treating my dad and me to the Padres baseball game last night.
You're welcome. Yeah, it was a good game.
Good game. You had great tickets. Oh, my gosh. We were literally the front row, right there by third base, kind of by the third base umpire.
I think we were on TV about 8 or 9 times.
Yeah, that
I counted. My kids went through and screenshot, all the times we were on TV.
That's right, in various states of putting something in our mouth.
Most of the time eating.
Yeah. Well, yeah, good game. Padres looked fine. Pittsburgh looked pretty bad, actually.
Yeah, they had 4 errors.
Yeah, right? It was pretty bad. But yeah, enjoyable game. And boy, my dad sure appreciated it. He hasn't been to a game for a long time, and he's a huge baseball fan.
Right.
He's a Padre fan going back,
to Lane Field.
Yeah, back when they were a minor league team,
They were in Lane Field, minor league AAA baseball.
Yeah. So
it was perfect. I mean, the Padres win. Mm-hmm. The weather was great.
Yeah, we thought we might be cold, and we were not.
I was never even used a jacket.
Yeah.
So it was like a day game, but at night. Yeah, just everything was perfect. We didn't have any. We even got waited on.
Yeah, they have when you're sit close like that. Yeah. Somebody comes by and brings your food to you.
That's really nice. If somebody could go to the bathroom for me, that would be the perfect game.
I'll tell you, Mike, if I could have that in life, forget about the baseball game. Just have somebody go to the bathroom for me.
Think of all the hours that would save.
Oh,
we'd stay at the casino an extra hour every week.
An extra hour.
Because we would never have to go to the bathroom. Can you go for me? Sure. It's part of your comp.
I just hate to tip. I just hate to tip for going to the bathroom for me. That's the only thing. If I didn't have to tip.
Well, no, you need to tip because that way you're sure it comes out well.
Yeah, that's right. You want it
to come out.
You want a good outcome, so you tip. I understand why the whole system's in place. Yeah. Well, again, thank you, and that's why we are a day late here for the podcast because we actually went to the game when we normally record. So that's why we're late. But again, thank you, Mike.
I'm laughing because. Maybe just have the dog bot go to the bathroom for you.
The dog bot?
Dog bot.
That's right.
Your sister text messaged me, dog bot.
She really got a kick out of the dog bot.
Yeah.
So the dog...
I like that I'm sitting there, I get a beep, I look, dog bot.
The dog bot supposedly helps you at the casino.
Right.
Nobody can figure out why. The dog bot also supposedly can go to the bathroom for you.
Right.
Nobody's exactly sure how that works.
Right. And nobody, male or female dog bot, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's just a dog bot.
And they're selling like hotcakes.
Someday they're actually going to have a dog bot, and we're getting nothing for it.
Nothing.
It's our idea.
Oh, the idea of a robotic dog, which I think they do already have, okay? Whether they help you at the casino and go to the bathroom for you, I'm not so sure. But
think about this. Think about, just for a second, on a serious note.
Okay.
You've seen robots of all different shapes and sizes, and usually they're in a human form, right?
For the most part. Okay, sure. I guess so. When you're talking about a robot, not like industry robots that build things and things, but when you think of like a Star Wars robot, you're thinking of something that looks like a person.
Right.
All right,
well, and there's that one that's actually real life that they have at Disneyland it was made in Japan, I believe. And it's incredible what it can do. But it's like a little human.
Right.
Why not a dog?
Well, you've seen those creepy-looking dog robots, right? That walk around like they're...
But they're not really helpful.
No, they're just scary.
They're just scary.
That's the only reason they were made.
A helpful dog. I mean, it could be your companion.
Yeah.
And service stuff for you, go to the bathroom for you.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming, Mark. And we're missing out.
Yep. The year 2000. I can hardly wait. Well, this last weekend was the Kentucky Derby. We didn't actually talk about it on the previous show at all. Kind of a surprise, a long shot won. Certainly, we were making predictions about who would win, and we were way off. None of the horses we picked even showed it in the money at all.
Well, Hot Rod Charlie I had in my
Oh, that's right. You did
mix.
Mention Hot Rod Charlie.
Yeah,
that's right. You're right.
That was one in my mix, and that was the third place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge... The place horse was a long shot, right?
To also, right, almost paid as much to place as the winner, Medina Spirit, paid to win. That's how, yeah. And so, of course, anytime you have situations like that, you're going to have great exacta and trifecta and superfecta payoffs.
Right.
And in fact, the $1 superfecta, 87914, paid almost $10,000. So
yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
How many people do you think had that?
Well, the thing is, people who make those bets, they're not just making one bet; they're making a bunch of bets, right?
They're making a bunch of them, and they got to be really excited because if it's 1, 2, 3 favorite, second, third, fourth favorite, I mean, everyone had that.
Sure,
and it gets nothing.
Yeah.
Right. This way, they make a pretty nice
payout.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, don't count on any Triple Crown winner this year.
No,
but the Preakness Stakes is coming up Saturday, May 15th. So that's the next one. So enjoy that. But I wouldn't expect Medina Spirit to win all three.
As a matter of fact, it'll probably be 3 different horses this year.
Yeah, it absolutely could be. Yep. Well, Mike, you saw an article online about a baseball pool. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, I was just looking online and in Golf Digest.
But this is a baseball bet, right? Okay.
Yeah, one of the writers wrote an article about what he said. I accidentally discovered the best baseball pool, the no-hitter crackpot jackpot.
Okay.
Sounds like something I'd come up with.
Yeah, something crackpot. It definitely sounds like something you... Written by Shane Ryan at Golf Digest. I'll put a link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, and basically, it's kind of like our 33 pool in football, where if one team scores 33...
Exactly 33,
exactly,
right? And wins,
33 points and wins, and... whoever has them as their team gets the money in the jackpot. And this is basically just you pick a team, and if your team that night happens to pitch a no-hitter, then you win whatever in the jackpot.
And so one of the major differences between the 33 pool and this is that every day you can pick whatever team you want.
Right.
And it's not unique. Other people in the pool could pick the same team, right? So it's not like every team is chosen. And it's possible for more than one player to pick the same team.
Right. So you don't have to have 30 guys, each picking a different team.
Yeah.
You could do this with 5 or 6 guys and every day you just somehow, make a pick.
Right.
Now, he mentions in the article that it's just easier to stay with one team. So he had picked the Mets and was just writing the Mets every day.
Well, yeah, and I'm thinking trying to coordinate people's picks.
Right.
Is there somebody who's running it, or what if somebody forgets to make a pick today? Is there a...
Well, probably what it is done online.
Yeah.
And you can change your pick every day. And if you don't change it, you probably have a feature where just use my last pick.
If they even play that day.
Right, if they play that day. If they don't play that day, you just don't have a pick.
Okay, but the idea is that every day... the players
pick a different team.
And the players contribute to this pool, not a big amount because we're talking about a 162 game baseball season, right? So,
in his example, they put in a quarter every day,
like as in 25 cents.
25 cents,
yeah.
And there was a cap. It capped out at what, $25, something like that.
Okay, right.
So it capped out at a certain amount.
All right, before the full season was over, as long as nobody hit threw a no hitter. Yeah,
right. And so when somebody did get a no hitter, that person or people, however many people picked that team, got to share that pool, and then it started over.
Gosh, you could go a long time, though, with nobody winning the pool. I mean, it happens, there have been 2 no-hitters. Well, in April, there were 2 no-hitters this season, and that's unusual.
That might be it for the year,
sure,
right?
Of course,
I mean, we kind of looked back in history, just real quick. We didn't do
we didn't research it.
We didn't research it real good, but it seemed like it was an average of 2 to 3 no-hitters a year.
Yeah, and you could easily go a whole season with nobody throwing one, sure.
Right, yeah, so, I mean, it's one of those things where the pot could get pretty big, and you could have 50 guys, right? Yeah, every 50 guys putting in a quarter every day.
I mean, that would be pretty good. But again, just trying to coordinate it. That's the thing about pools is that it's hard enough to get a football pool going, reminding people, hey, get your picks in before Thursday night.
Right.
But every day, you'd have to have some kind of something in place to accommodate people who forget or...
Well, and I was thinking about this. It couldn't be one of those situations where like, oh, you didn't make a pick today, no big deal. Well, somebody could just wait and let the pot get bigger and then make a pick, right? And they hadn't put much money in.
Oh, I see what you're saying is that they don't have to contribute if they don't make a pick.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you'd have to
say, look, even if you forget to make your pick
you have
or
to
change,
contribute. Oh,
you got to
have
contribute your 25 cents. And if I was running it, I would collect all the money, like the 25 right up front.
So like
from
every day, you
everybody.
mean? Oh,
No,
you mean
just
right
at the front.
The maximum amount is what
give
you're
me the
saying.
maximum amount.
Oh, okay, so you
if we
could
don't-
keep track.
if we don't reach that maximum amount, which you would reach right in a season, then we're gonna. But I'd have all the money, and then I'd keep track of 25 cents each day somebody put in. So if somebody won, they wouldn't get all of it, and it'd be over. But you get all the money up front. That'd be the way to go.
Yeah, that's not bad. So, do you plan on actually running this pool?
No, I couldn't do that.
No, of course not. That's why I asked. I wanted to embarrass you on the air.
It takes somebody with computer skills like you who could
I'd want to do
this.
it. Like I'd want to do it.
Now, everyone out there listening, if you want Mark to run one of these pools, please call in. Please beg Mark to run one of these pools.
Yeah. I don't know that you're going to get a response from me, so don't.
I mean, it doesn't benefit me because there's no way I'd ever win.
Well,
I mean, sure, I could win, but there's no way I'll ever win.
Yeah, that's right. No, what is it? I won't win, but I might. Wasn't that what you said?
I won't
Got to make
win.
sure we get the
I won't
wording
win,
right.
but I might.
But like I said, I'll put a link to the article. So people
read
wanna
the
take a
article.
look
It's
and
really,
see.
it's
kind of funny the way he's got kind of a funny writer.
He's got the way he wrote it. It's very funny, and but it seems like a good pull, and it might be interesting.
Well, one funny thing that he was talking about, especially if you're playing with friends,
right?
If somebody's on the verge of throwing a no-hitter,
right?
All the people that didn't pick that team are doing whatever they can to jinx it,
right?
Right. Good
Talking
luck
about it
on the no-hitter. Sure hope he
about it.
Sure hope he doesn't hit anybody or walk a guy. That'd be a shame, But
there was a caveat in there in that poll that if it was a perfect game,
that's actually kind of what I was getting at, right?
If it's a perfect game, you get a little more,
yeah.
And if it was just a no-hitter, you got a certain percent of the pool or something. Yeah. I like that he starts off by saying, I'm kind of the person who spends too much time, actually an embarrassing amount of time, if I ever tallied the total hours, inventing and participating in sports pools.
I think he's not alone in this world.
I don't think he's alone.
Yep.
He said normal gambling is fine. And I dabble in that, but I'm not truly happy unless I'm rooting hard against the Scottish women in the curling World Cup, where I could win $60 from 12 of my friends.
That's right. When we used to do that March Madness pool,
right.
We would get so invested in it, but we'd only be putting like $10 in. Right? It wouldn't be all that serious money.
It is not about the money.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. When we're gambling, when we're playing craps against the casino, it is about the money.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we want to win, right? We want to take the casino for all we can. Right. When it's our friends, I mean, I could win $1 from you and I am on cloud 9.
That's right. Oh, I'm furious. This just weighs on me all day. Meanwhile, I won $100, right, on the last pass line.
Right. Do you remember years ago, you decided you were going to be our bookie for me and Paul?
Yeah, that's right.
And we were making bets with you every day.
Yeah.
And Paul and I got the biggest kick out of, when you'd have a bad day.
It didn't go too well for me most of the time. Yeah,
right.
they were beating me up pretty bad. And again, we're talking like $10.
Yeah,
right? It wasn't like serious money, right?
You're losing $10 and winning, $2,000 at the casino, but you lose $10, and we're just we got him. Our best friend. We're happy to get your $10.
I gave that up.
You were not a good odds maker, odds setter.
Yeah, I was just using the line. You guys were too sharp for me. You knew how to pick the winners. Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, please go to our page first, youcanbetonthat.com, and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. All right, let's move on to some voicemails. First up is Logan.
Hello, this is Logan. This is a Vegas trip report. I went to South Point. I had about 55 rows, made a few thousand. I also played the all tall, all small. I only hit the small. I wasn't able to hit the 12 for the tall and make them all. I also played at the Venetian. Last time at the Venetian, they had a repeater bet table. There's no repeater bet or any fire bet or all tall, small at the Venetian anymore. However, the Orleans has repeater and replay bet. Played also at the Wynn. Had a few good rolls there. Went to Mohegan Sun, which was the old Hard Rock Cafe. That casino was empty. Didn't seem like it had a lot of staff to greet what customers were there. And Palace Station also was kind of empty when I visited. However, the best casino I've been this past trip was Green Valley Ranch. I was at the table, I should say, and I seen a guy up maybe $3,000 playing the dome. So I decided to go to the buffet and eat, or the restaurant. When I came back, the guy was sitting at the table and he's pretty much lost all of his money. His $3,000 was not even like a few hundred. So he should have left when he was up. Other than that, it was a pretty good trip.
Yeah, we're going to have to get to Green Valley Ranch eventually. People
we've
talk
heard good things about it.
Once we're in Vegas and we're in a mode where we want to, hit some of the outer casinos.
One of the problems is when we do go to Vegas now, they're quicker trips.
Yeah, that is true, right?
Years ago, we'd have some longer where we'd be there a while and we'd drive around. And we weren't in a big hurry to, gamble.
Well, and plus with the podcast now, it seems like we've got a lot more things scheduled.
Right.
Or, meetups, that kind of thing, right?
So, like we're going to meet somebody somewhere. Yeah.
So it's true. We'll get there eventually. Yeah, Hard Rock, or what used to be Hard Rock, now the Virgin Hotel, we've been hearing similar things, that it's really dead. Even on 500 recently, they were talking about how, there's hardly anybody there. So,
and that's owned by Mohegan Sun?
Yeah, so Mohegan Sun's running it. Yeah, it's a Virgin Hotel. Used to be where the Hard Rock is, off strip there.
Right. So what's with these Indian casinos buying Las Vegas?
Oh, yeah. So San Manuel, a casino that we talked about up in the LA area, they just bought the Palms.
Right.
The Palms, I still think, has not opened back up yet since the pandemic. They made just some terrible financial decisions before the pandemic hit. But San Manuel swooping in to hopefully turn that place around. It's a nice property,
And they do well here at San Manuel.
Oh,
with their giveaways and stuff, they're always packed.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll turn that around.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they'll cater to LA people coming to Vegas.
Maybe, yeah, we'll see. That's what SLS though was trying to do, where Sahara is now, and they didn't really succeed at that. I mean, I don't know if you live in LA. And you're thinking, I want to go to Vegas, but I want the LA experience.
Right.
I mean, who's thinking that, right?
Right.
So
there's one out there.
There's probably one, yeah.
Well, part of it, and I firmly believe this, Mark, it's location.
Sure.
I mean, you can say, yeah, sure. But, some of the off-strip casinos are local casinos, and they make their money on catering to local people with food and whatever and a little bit of gambling and this and that. But if you want a real major casino, you got to have the right location.
I think the Palms, their initial success was they jumped on to the idea of nightclubs in Las Vegas, and they attracted a lot of celebrities.
Right.
And so initially that was huge for them.
Right. And a lot of people wanted to go there to be able, maybe they see Michael Jordan playing, blackjack or something, things like that.
Yeah.
But that died down after a while.
Yeah, it definitely did, right?
Yeah.
It got saturated, so we'll see. Logan's talking about the repeater bet not being at Venetian anymore. Yeah, the repeater bet is slowly disappearing. It's the fire bet is coming back, basically. That's a lot of it. And the all small tall, that might be the most popular one. It seems like people really love playing that one. It certainly hits more than the fire bet.
Well, and that repeater is way too much work for the dealers.
A lot of work for the dealers, even though they do have an envy.
Yeah.
They do have interest in it. They actually get paid when a player gets paid.
Right.
It is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and I think it's hard for players, too, to kind of follow that.
It's certainly not as easy to explain as the all small tall. That's probably the easy, fire bet is even hard to explain to a novice, right? It's like, you have to establish and make 6 unique points, all of them.
And what are these points?
Yeah, right.
That's what, that's
and what's
answer.
the pass line?
Yeah.
Right. So.
Well, and at least with all tall, all small, you can say, okay, look, when he makes a 6, I put this button on the 6. When he gets all those, you've made that half, you win.
You've made that. As long as he doesn't roll a 7, that's all you have to say. Yeah.
And if you make them all, you get paid more.
Yeah.
And so, it's pretty easy explaining the repeater. Well, why do I have to get 5 5s?
Yeah. How come I have to get 5 9s?
Yeah. How come I have to get
5 5s I can understand.
And 6 8s, but not 8 6s.
Right. So Venetian, he was saying no bonus bets, although we did hear recently that the Palazzo has the fire bet.
Yes. Somebody
just head on over there if you're over there in the Palazzo Venetian complex. All right, next call.
Hi, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Mr. Lucky, San Clemente, California. I had a question for both of you, but first, I wanted to follow up on that caller last week that had the issue with the Pai-Gow poker hand. In the early 90s, some buddies and I were in Binions. We were down quite a bit back then when we were broke, and we ended up putting $1,000 on a hand of Pai-Gow poker, 500 each. We're in the middle of the table. We get dealt a couple of small pair. Dealer, turns out, they have a couple small pair, but they have a joker. So they split the pairs instead of keeping the joker up with the other card. We split it. They flip over the cards on set the hand. They flip over the third base hand. They end up paying that one. The one next to us pushes. They come to our hand, and all of a sudden this woman with a bucket, and for all you young callers, they used to actually use coins, and they had these buckets, all the casinos did. And she came walking by the table with a bucket full of nickels, and she said, "Looks like the dealer set their hand wrong. You know, they should have put the ace up." So as Bobby Buckets always says, I turned to her and I said, "Hey, keep walking. You're not even in the hand. Mind your own business." Floor person comes over. They reset the hand. They don't pay it. I call the casino manager over. We get in a real heated argument, at which point I said, "You know, the shame of it is if Benny Binion were still alive, you know damn well you would pay that bet in a second." Turns to me, he says, "Would that make you happy?" I said, "Yeah. And not only that, but I want a steak dinner. And damn if they didn't pay the bet, didn't take the 5% or didn't take the $50 out, and they gave us a steak dinner for $4. So, Mark, Dr. Mike, my question is this. I'm sure it happens a lot more than people think, but there's always those occasions where you might buy in for, $2,000 and they give you $2,500. Maybe they give you $2,000 in black, $500 in green. What do you do in that situation? My money is on Mark saying, "Oh, look, you overpaid me. Go ahead and take the money back." I think Dr. Mike just goes ahead and scoops it all up, puts it in a craft rail, doesn't say a thing. So I was wondering what you two would do in a situation where you are overpaid, a significant amount of money, not $10, $15 on a 6 or 8, but, on a significant amount of money. Do you just play dumb and put it in the rack and go, or do you bring it to their attention? Just wanted to see what you guys would do. Thanks so much for the show. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I think you and I are going to be on the same page here, Dr. Mike. I don't think we're going to have different opinions.
No, I think we have exactly
what we do.
The same opinion.
Yeah. So certainly we've talked about it before on small amounts. If a dealer mispays us, it should have given us $30 on a 6 and instead gave us $60. Yeah, we usually won't say anything, right? It's a small amount. We've said that it's sort of a different situation at a casino. They're in the business of trying to get our money through wagers. So, we're going to try to get their money with the ways that we can. Whereas if we're, at the grocery store and the cashier gives us, 50 cents too much in change, we'll give it back to him, right? It's a different situation. It's a different mindset. And I can understand people who may not think it's a different situation, but that's how we approach it.
Right.
But if you're talking about a big amount,
yeah, well, what do you define
what is
as
a big amount, right?
Right.
So he was saying, okay, you buy in for $2,000 and the dealer gives you $2,500. Well, yeah, that's probably something where I'd call it to their attention. That's a pretty big, mistake.
Right.
Now, where do I draw the line? What's my number? I don't know.
On a buy-in, I would not take any more than I bought in for.
Okay. All right. So a buy-in is kind of maybe a different situation.
A buy-in is a different story, and a cash out is a different story. If they were coloring me up and they said, "Oh, you've got you got 11,300 here," and I really had 10,300, I would say something.
Okay. Right.
Because that's when I'm coloring up. Now in the middle of the game, they overpay me a little. I'm probably putting it in the rail because they're getting it back anyway.
Yeah, right.
That's what I figure. And, and it's their responsibility to make sure I'm paid right.
Yeah.
And my responsibility to make sure I'm paid right. So if I'm underpaid, I'll say something.
Yep.
But, I don't know.
It does depend.
If it was like, they were supposed to pay me in 100 chips and they paid me in 500 chips, that
Yes,
wouldn't happen.
No, but sure.
If it did, I'd obviously say something, I think, because... it'd be like, well, how'd you get all those 500 chips in your rail?
Yeah.
There was an instance not too long ago where I had 50 on the line and 250 odds on a 6. Mm-hmm. 6 was made.
Right.
The person grabbed a stack of black and a stack of green. Mm-hmm. Should have put $50 for my line bets in green and 3 blacks in the back for a total payout of $350.
Right.
Instead, for some reason, they had the blacks in their hand. They put 3 in the back and 2 in the front and just went on
All
to
blacks.
all blacks.
Okay.
And just went on to the next person. So
Yeah.
I'm 150 ahead.
Yeah.
Of what I was supposed to get. That they just went on and I let it set out there.
Well,
for
see,
a while.
yeah, that's a good point too. That something recently happened to me. It might have been the same session where they paid my pass line and odds, and they paid me twice as much as I deserved.
Right.
And I saw it, and instead of snatching it up,
Right.
I left it out there to give them a chance to kind of catch.
Right.
I'm not going to, kind of real quick and
Yeah, I'm not trying to hide anything.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, if it just sits there and sits there, it's like, okay.
And then I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we've talked about it too. If we're making come bets and the dealer forgets to collect the come bets on a come out roll 7, which we've
Right.
talked about is probably the most common mistake that
Right.
dealers make
It's-
at the craps
it's
table.
probably the most common.
I won't call that to their attention.
Well, and sometimes that hurts you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially when you've got odds. And
Yeah,
then,
you've
then
got
the next
odds.
roll, they establish a point, and then the next roll's a 7. It's like,
Seven
my odds would have come back if,
Yeah, you
I
would've got
called
all
attention.
those odds
Oh,
back.
sure. It can work both ways.
Yeah. As far as the table goes, I'm not real fussy about, if they overpay me.
No.
Like I said, if I was cashing in and they were overpaying me, then I'd probably say something.
Right.
And that happened to you once, remember, years ago, where they gave you too much.
Well, and I didn't catch it.
No, you didn't
Yeah.
catch it until you were at the cashier.
Right.
And she counted it up, and you're like, no, it's, you're
Well,
like.
no, I didn't say anything.
No,
I
but
just
you're-
kind of
in
was
your-
trying to figure out what
in
was
your
going
head,
on,
you're
right?
thinking, well, no, that's $500 too much.
Yeah.
And they had given you $500 too much, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. And,
And-
you were already at the cashier.
Yeah, at that point, what am I going to do, right?
Yeah. Go back to the table. Oh, here
You overpaid me.
Yeah.
And then some poor dealer gets fired. Do I want that hanging over me?
Well, and one thing too is we tip a fair amount.
Yeah.
And we play enough that they're getting it back anyway.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, for me, really, at the end of the night.
No, there's no question, Mike.
So,
there's no question.
so I don't, I think it all works out in the wash, kind of in my head. Now, you could say I'm justifying it in my head, and I, would probably agree with you to a certain extent.
But we've talked about it. People can have their own opinion. Our opinion is there's something different when you're in a gambling situation against the casino.
Yeah.
You're making bets, and there's a dealer there who's trained
Right.
to do things correctly.
Right.
Right. In fact, we were talking, last night at the game, we ran into listeners Troy and Flora. And again, Troy, thank you for the beer. Actually, I got a canned cocktail. So,
Yes,
but
thank
they were
you.
at the game. And Flora was even saying, what do you think of a situation where, say, a Pai Gow poker dealer missets their hand
Right.
in your favor?
Right.
Do you call attention to that? Absolutely not.
No. No.
First of all, you don't want to piss off other people at the table who may benefit from it.
Right.
But it's their job to catch that correctly.
Right.
And there is a house way to set the hand.
Right.
Right. And so, that's up to them. That's
Right.
something we don't call attention to.
Now, I would never want to do anything that would get a dealer in trouble or fired. I mean,
Sure.
if I knew with 100% that guy was going to get fired if he had overpaid me, I would give him his money back in a heartbeat.
Oh, of
It's
course,
just not
yeah, sure,
worth it.
sure,
right?
sure.
But chances are they're not getting fired.
No.
Or even getting in trouble. Mistakes happen all the time.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of it is they're just trying to keep going. They're trying to keep the game going,
Yes,
right?
right.
So, I don't know. You have a theory about people. So,
I do, yeah.
So that explains most of it right there.
I do, yeah. So I don't know if that really answers your question, Mr. Lucky, because, there probably is a threshold, a number. And I
Yeah.
have no idea what that number is, where in some kind of transaction, where would I call attention to it and where wouldn't I? I don't know.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, it's like I said, if they paid me in 500 chips and they were supposed to be $25 chips, I think I'd probably say something.
Probably, yeah.
Because
exactly,
I'd feel
sure.
terrible. If I'm getting 40 extra bucks, I'm not worried about that
Right.
because I'm giving it back to them anyway.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. All right, next call from Uncle G.
Hey guys, this is Uncle G calling in from Massachusetts. The trip report. Last week, Professor T, Johnny Yo, and myself returned to Las Vegas after a 2 or 3 year hiatus, and we had a great trip. And one of the things I want to focus on this phone call is let's celebrate little wins or small wins. At least we sure celebrated small wins. So I'll give you an example. It's the end of day 2, and we were walking around talking about how great our trip was, and I said, are all 3 of us up for this trip? And everybody said, yeah. And we said, what are the chances after 2 full days of gambling that all 3 of us were up? Now, we weren't up Dr. Mike kind of money. We were up a few $100 each. And it adds so much energy to the day to have these small wins constantly. We loved it. I'll give you an example. Day 3, I get up super early because I'm on East Coast time and I'm loving that Vegas sunrise. We were staying at MGM Grand, which sucked. But I walked over to Park MGM, had a nice breakfast at Eataly around 8 in the morning. Then went to New York, walked down a little farther, crossed over, went to Bally's, the Cromwell, Flamingo, that whole strip. I said, let me check out Paris. Walked over to Paris, and I said, why not go to Ellis Island? So I went over to Ellis Island. Then I walked back. And anyway, I made about a dozen stops that day. And when I got back, the guy said, are you still winning? And I said, I didn't lose $1 at one stop today. Now, I had some stops where I only made $10. I had stops where I made $100. But most of the wins were really small, but they were wins. So I won something like 11 out of 11 stops. I paid for my breakfast. I paid for my lunch. I paid for endless drink tips. I tipped the guy singing on the overpass. And at the end of the day, I still had $250 or so more than I started the day with. So I know there's some people over there that maybe don't get off on a small win. I love them. And you're battling back. I said, if I get back to even, I'm going to walk. So I get back to even, go up $10, color up or cash in and just walk. So great trip fueled by loads of small wins. A couple of noteworthy stops. Went to Evil Pie for the first time. Absolutely loved it. And also loved our trip to Ellis Island, especially having lunch over in the front yard. So anyway, let's celebrate the small wins, guys. And the small wins keep the pockets full for the casino road trip that's coming up in a few weeks. That includes Paris, Cherokee. Stay tuned. Uncle G's out.
All right. Thanks, Uncle G.
Thanks.
Yeah. What great advice. Celebrate the small win. It's so true. I remember a few years back, we were playing at Flamingo. And you know how we talked about how we never intend to go play at Flamingo, but if we're walking by it, we'll, go in and we'll play.
Yeah.
And I remember we played for maybe an hour or something like that. And I cashed out and I was up $40. And for whatever reason at the time on that trip, it's like, hey, yeah, I won $40. I've got 40 more bucks in my wallet than before we got here. And I had a great time playing craps, which I love. And for whatever reason, it's stuck with me just that whole time. It's just, $40. $40 is not nothing.
Right.
So, yeah, it's good advice.
Let me throw this out, see what you think about this.
All right.
Number 1, there are no such thing as small wins.
Okay.
A win is a win.
Well,
Whether it's 50 cents or, $5,000, there's no such thing as a small win. There are small losses, and you should celebrate those.
Okay.
Like, I had a small loss. Okay, well, that's pretty good. You had fun, right?
All right. As a gambler, small losses
as a gambler, I'm talking as a gambler.
Sure.
Small losses.
Yeah.
There's such a thing. There's no such thing as a small win. Because a win is a win.
I mean, I think I see what you're getting at.
See where I'm getting?
I definitely see what you're getting at.
Yeah.
But I do want to emphasize what Uncle G is saying, and don't feel bad that
about
you only won.
Right.
And that's kind of what he's getting at.
And
is, I only won $40.
Yeah, you should never feel bad because a win is a win. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yes.
I'll take it every day versus that small loss.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. For sure.
Or the big loss.
Or the big loss. The big loss you can feel bad about. I'll give you that one.
Yeah. Right. That's the one you feel bad about.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, if they were all 3 up after 2 days of gambling, how do they decide who sleeps on the cot?
Yeah, I don't know. You flip a coin, or whoever's up the least.
Right.
That was our rule, wasn't it? It was whoever was down the most, or if everybody's up, whoever's up the least. Yeah,
sleeps on the cot.
Yeah.
As punishment.
That's right. Wait, isn't that a double whammy? Shouldn't the guy who's up the most sleep on the cot?
No.
Like, you don't understand. You don't understand economics. You don't understand the American way.
No, you need to be penalized for being up the least. You're on the cot, buddy. Do they even have cots anymore?
Do they? Well, of course they have cots. What kind of question is that? We just haven't had to use a cot. We haven't gone to Vegas and there have been like 8 guys in one room in a long time. Those days are behind us, thank goodness.
Did I ever tell you the cot story about my brother?
Your brother? I don't know.
Yeah, well, they didn't have any cots. So they brought a blow-up mattress thing.
Like an air mattress?
Right.
Uh-huh.
And he had blown it up. But I guess it had some kind of tumor where one spot is bulging out.
Right. It's like
And my brother sat down.
Now, where was this? What was this?
This was in Disney World on a family trip.
Okay, all right, okay.
But he was in town for just a couple days working, and we were there for like a week.
But you were adults at this point.
Adults,
It was, okay,
right.
all right.
Adults, yeah. Okay. Well, my kids weren't, but
I
the rest
understand.
of us were adults.
Right, it wasn't when you were a kid. Okay.
And he sat down on that mattress, and because of the tumor, it wasn't flat.
Right.
And he just shot out from underneath of him and went up and hit the roof. And he was laying on the ground, and this thing just went boom up on the roof. I'll never forget that as long as I live. It's like falling off the cot or being on the cot and waking up, and your friend is like probably about a quarter inch from your face.
Saying good morning.
Saying good morning.
Hi.
That's the first thing.
The sun's up.
When you open your eyes.
It's a new day. Hi.
You feel like a hot breath. You open your eyes, and there he is. Hi. Oh, that was a frequent thing that happened to me.
That happened quite a bit, didn't it?
I was on the cot a lot.
Yeah, you were. Yep. All right, next call.
Gentlemen, this is Brandon from Central Coast of California calling on race day 2021. Just finished watching the Kentucky Derby, and lo and behold, the winner, not Essential Quality, which I had a lot of my bets on, but Medina Spirit takes it. I did have a place and show bet on Mandaloon, so that covered my other bets a little bit, so I didn't lose too bad. But I had a blackjack question for y'all. When we're learning, like when you're, 2 or 3 years old, and everyone says, oh, you got to always assume the dealer's got a 10 down. Always assume the dealer's got a 10 down. But that's not really true. And, I've had this question for a while. Never had anyone to ask it to until now. But if my math's correct, you got a 4 in 13 chance that it's a 10 down, which leaves 9 in 13 that it's not a 10. So I was just wondering why everyone teaches blackjack to always assume the dealer's got a 10 face down when really the odds are that they have not a 10. So, all right, love the show. Interested to hear your feedback. Thanks.
So you're right, Brandon. You should not assume that the dealer has a 10 down. Number one, because you know what happens when you assume, Mike.
Right, you know exactly what
happens.
You make out an ass out of you and Paul.
Yeah. But no, it is true. Chances are the dealer doesn't have a 10. There are more non-10 cards than there are 10s. But assuming the dealer has a 10 can be helpful in a way. Now, years ago, they determined what the correct basic strategy is for blackjack, right? The computers spit out the numbers, and they have the correct decision to make on any hand in blackjack. In order to memorize that basic strategy, it can help to assume that the dealer has a 10 down. So, for example, let's say you had a hard 14, right? And the dealer has a 9. If you assume the dealer has a 10 down, then you should hit.
Right.
If you've got that hard 14 and the dealer has a 6 showing, and you assume the dealer has a 10 down, you should stay. So I think it's a good device for helping to memorize basic strategy. But you don't want to just go in and just assume, oh, the dealer has a 10 down. The dealer has a 10 down. No. What you want to do is you want to memorize basic strategy and play that way.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. Chances are the dealer doesn't have a 10 down.
Right. I think it boils down to it's just an easier way to explain basic strategy to somebody.
Yes.
Without going through the math.
Right. Yes. And that's what I'm saying. Now, when you get into some of these other tricky hands, like soft totals that you double, or when you split, then maybe assuming a 10 down doesn't really help.
Right.
Again, you've got
a 12 against a 2.
Yeah, there's another example.
That's the perfect example.
Yeah, 12 against a 2. You've got to trust, these computer runs. And in some ways, you just throw up your hands and say, that's what the book says. That's what the computer says.
Right.
But you're right.
That really works well when you tell the guy at third base, well, the computer says, the book says you should do this, and really you should do this. And the guy looks at you like, you play your hand, I'll play mine.
That's right. Don't offer up the
I'm
advice,
hitting this 14. I don't care if he's got a 10 down.
Yep. So I hope that answers your question. You shouldn't assume that, but it's a good way to teach people. Yeah,
Right.
basic strategy. Yeah.
Right. That's a good question, actually.
Oh, yeah, it is a very
it's
good
good
question.
that he brings that up. I mean, it might confuse some people, but because most people do believe the dealer always has a 10 down.
Oh, right. And you'll have a run of, hands where they do.
Right.
And it's like, oh my gosh, of course he has a 10 down, right?
Right.
But, if you really kept track, you'd find that usually they don't have a 10 down. Yeah. All right, next call.
Hi, Mark and Dr. Mike. It's Megan in New Jersey, longtime listener, first-time caller. I just wanted to call in and clarify something that a caller said on your previous episode of the podcast about having to sit down at the craps table in Atlantic City. It's not that you have to sit while playing table games right now in Atlantic City. It's that you have to sit while eating or drinking. So because craps, you normally don't have chairs, they have to provide you a chair in order to serve you a beverage. And sometimes the waitresses even enforce, okay, sit down before I will hand you this drink. Or if somebody's standing behind you, they'll make that person go find an empty chair before they'll serve the drink. And just one other Atlantic City update, Harrah's in Atlantic City now has the roll to win craps tables, the ones with the real dice that you roll down in glass table and do the electronic betting. They're pretty fun. Played them one night, didn't really win any money. But one thing that I noticed, and I don't think the casino wanted you to notice, is that you didn't earn any tier points or comp dollars for playing it, which, yes, it was nice that it was a $5 minimum and all the other craps tables were $15 and $25. But even from low rolling, I kind of want credit for my play. So I wasn't sure if you had seen that other places and if it was the norm for roll to win, but thought it was worth watching out for. But anyway, love the podcast, and thank you guys for everything that you do.
Yeah, thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
It is not the norm for roll-to-win tables.
Right.
However, it is not uncommon for casinos to not offer any credit when you're playing these table game-based machines.
Yes, and I have a big problem with that, Mark.
Sure.
Because I can go to a penny slot machine and play, say, 40 cents a push.
Yeah.
And I get credit for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a lot, but you get credit.
You do.
You're on this craps table that has $5 minimum bets. If you've got a pass line and say 2 or 3 numbers covered, every roll of the dice, you may have 20, 30 bucks out there, as opposed to the 40 cents that I have on that machine. They want to give me credit for that.
Yeah, it's true. You'll see that a lot. Electronic roulette, electronic craps, even just a simple, small electronic blackjack machine. Sometimes you can't earn any credits. Now, hopefully, there will be a sign that says as such, and sometimes there is, but sometimes there's not. I don't know what casinos are thinking when it comes to this. What are they worried about?
Yeah, what are they worried about?
I mean, okay, maybe you could have them earn less than they should.
Yeah,
but,
it should be
something give them something.
Like video poker, you earn less than you do on slots or Keno.
Right. A good example, right? Because it's kind of skill-based,
right.
and, if you're playing it right, you can have a low house edge. Yeah, that's true. That's
so
true.
they just give you less, and everyone who plays video poker knows that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to earn as much, but this is a game that I have a certain chance of winning. So to speak. So why not? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
So beware of that. But it's certainly not standard. And, there are plenty of roll-to-win tables where you can see that you're earning credit. Certainly the ones here out at Harrah's, you do. So.
You know what they should have on machines like that? Maybe they should just, in the layout where you make your bets, they should just have a fist. Mm-hmm. Somebody's making a fist, and one of the fingers just happens to be extended.
Oh, I see.
And so right off you're not getting any credit.
Just right up front, or does the finger rise slowly?
With the crank, the guy's cranking it.
Once you've had run $10 through, it's fully extended.
Right. Yeah. There you go. I mean, that would make it clear and up front.
Yeah, that would clear it up a little bit. Then you wouldn't know. Oh, it's one of those finger machines.
Yeah.
Honey, look, let's move along.
Yeah, Grandma, don't worry about it. Dogbot will take care of that. Dogbot will take care of that.
I'm offended. All right, one more call. This one from our buddy Tim.
Mark, Dr. Mike, how you doing? Tim Lawson from The Better Life here. Question from something I experienced down in Biloxi. By the way, you two are going to love Biloxi. Can't wait till you guys get a chance to get down there. I hope I can be there when you finally make that trip. I was playing a don't session like I do. It was a day where I was playing by myself, playing a don't session. And when I'm playing a don't session, I have a hard time really getting good dealer tips in, because you don't want to be betting the dealers with you because that's against the shooter. They don't want to be in that situation. It's also weird to put the dealers with the shooter or whatever's going on with my DC bets or against it or whatever, because that puts them in a weird situation. So I try to thread the needle sometimes. Like if there's no action on the 4, I'll give them a hard 4, something like that. But I do make sure that when it comes around to my time to shoot and I go to the pass, that I do a few things to give them action, right? I make a pass line bet for them with me. I might make some hard way bets. And then if there's a bonus bet, and it's usually the all tall small, I like to make that for them. 1 across, 1-1-1. And this situation has never come up for me up until I was in Biloxi. They couldn't put the bet up right away because I said 1-1-1, and I'm not on it, right? I don't bet the all tall small even when I'm shooting, even with the dealer bets, right? 1-1-1 is cheaper than 5-5-5. So I don't make the ATS bet, but I called for it and they hesitated. They're like, we can't go up there if there's no players on it, which I thought was odd at first. I thought maybe they don't want to track it just for the sake of a dealer bet, because it's kind of a weird, because I don't know, I've never heard any other bet in the casino. Maybe it's a bonus bet thing, because I don't make a lot of bonus bets. Maybe it's a bonus bet thing. Just curious if you've seen anything at a craps table, if you've seen anything at other tables where you can't make a dealer tip bet for the dealer if at least one player. Now, they said I didn't need to be on it. Just a player needed to be on it. Fortunately, another player went up, so the dealer bet got to go up there. Yeah, so I didn't have to be on it. Just a player needed to be on that bet before a dealer bet could be up on the all tall small. Have you seen anything like that at the craps table or otherwise? Love the show, fellas.
Okay, so yeah, if you've been on an all small tall table and nobody has bet it, you'll notice that the dealers don't keep track. I mean, what's the point, right? Why do it? As soon as somebody makes the bet, then they'll start keeping track.
The reason is that if there's nobody on the all tall, all small, and I walk up to the table and it's in the middle of the roll,
yes,
and nobody else has bet on it, and I say, hey, I want to bet the all tall, all small, they will take it right then.
Yes.
And I can bet it.
Right.
So if the dealer put their tip up there when nobody's on it,
yep,
and I walk up to the table, they've already had to keep track, and I can't do that.
Right.
So that's the reason.
That's absolutely good. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, that's absolutely the reason. If somebody else came in the middle.
This has already happened to me, and I've had it explained to me.
Oh, okay, yeah. That makes perfect sense. You come up, you want to make the bet, but oh no, sorry, sir. We've got to wait till the dealer's bet has been resolved. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Now, in most cases, if somebody else already has a bet on it and I walk up the table, I can't bet it.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Until there's a 7 out and it starts over.
Sure.
So then, then of course they'll put the dealer tip up there.
Yeah.
But by themselves, they can't do it for that simple reason that it kind of screws anyone who walks up to the table.
Yep. Or not even somebody walks up to the table, just suddenly somebody wants to bet it.
Right. Somebody, he's made 3 numbers. He's having a good roll. I'll bet the all tall down, right, or something.
The only other bet that I could think of where this would be the same thing is the repeater bet.
Yes.
Same kind of thing, right? Where
Same
they're keeping track, right? Once somebody's on the repeater bet and they've already rolled that number at least one time, they're keeping track. Nobody can bet on that at that point until it's been resolved, right?
So same kind of thing. You can bet on other numbers if they haven't come up.
Right. Yeah.
So if nobody has a repeater bet,
yeah,
they don't mark any of the numbers.
No. Right.
And if I walk up in the middle of the roll and I say, hey, I want to bet, $5 on repeater 11, well then, okay. And you can do it. And then nobody else can bet on the 11.
Right, and they'll only be keeping track of 11, right? Because if there are no other bets,
Right,
so
they'll only be keeping track of 11.
Repeater bet, and now it's interesting because we're talking about how they don't keep track. For whatever reason, it does seem like they do keep track of fire bets, even if nobody's made the fire bet. Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
they put out the little
markers. Yeah, that's just to shove it in your face.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, it doesn't really cost them anything,
No,
right?
I think that's what
true.
that is.
Yeah, it doesn't cost
What about
much
tips
time.
on the don't for the don't players?
Oh, I'll tell you, when I'm on the don't, usually what I'll do is as soon as a point's established, I'll just throw in a hard way for, on the number that I'm not on.
Right.
Just, hard 4 or hard 6.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
If I was on the don't, I would just bet the hard ways for the dealers or one of the hard ways.
That's what I do because,
Right.
And then everybody's happy, right? They roll a hard 8. I wasn't on the 8,
Although if I was a person like Tim who played the don't a lot, I don't know. I'd say $360 across for the dealers.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
$360 across for the dealers?
For the dealers, yeah.
Okay. So that's Mike's answer, Tim. Take it or leave it.
No, I think what most people do is they bet a hard way.
Yeah.
Although, it might not be bad to just put like a $2 4 and then, march the soldier right down.
Well, that's the other thing. I do that sometimes too, is I'll put a small bet out on the 4 and say, hey, let's march it down.
Right.
And if it turns into a hot roll and I'm on the don't, I stop making don't bets.
Right.
If a lot of numbers have been repeated, I just stop.
Yeah.
And then I could just march on down.
For everyone out there, I want you to know this. I want every person, every listener to know. You are very disciplined on the don't. People, I hear people, oh, do you ever play the don't? I don't, because I don't enjoy it.
Sure.
You play it lately a little more.
For sure.
And it works in your favor because you are very disciplined. You lose a couple of don't bets and you stop betting. Yeah. And you will sit there patiently through the whole roll. No matter how long it is, you will just sit there and not get mad or anything. Just keep playing your, computer game on your phone until the roll's over. And then, you've lost a little bit on the roll, but you haven't been decimated.
Right. I never allow myself to get decimated on a hot roll when I'm on the don't. Yeah.
And that's the problem with a lot of don't players, as I see it. We've seen guys who are just stubborn, like, no.
Or they'll double up.
They'll double up, right?
Yeah,
I lost 2, and they double their don't come bet. And then, inevitably you see people get hammered. I mean, just decimated where they can't get that back.
Yeah.
And you're not like that. That's why it works for you.
All right. Well, thank you. I assume that's a compliment. So I'm going to take it as such.
It is a compliment. Patience is a virtue. And, that's, you have it. I don't. I mean, I'll be the first to admit. I couldn't do that, right? Yeah. Well, you saw the last time I played the don't, the roll started, the guy made a couple numbers. I switched right back to the pass.
You were very fast changing,
and it turned out to be a monster roll.
Yeah, it was.
And I was kicking myself even at the end of it thinking I missed those first couple. I should have had.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We want to thank some people for some recurring PayPal donations. James, Kurt, and the Color Up Craps YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Hey, be sure to check out our TV listings showing all the gambling-related shows coming up within the next 2 weeks at youcanbetonthat.com/TV-listings and our list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonthat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at YouCanBetOnThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/YouCanBetOnThat. Finally, please go to your favorite podcast app and write a review of the show. We love getting your feedback. What do you got for us, Dr. Mike?
Well, I don't have too much to report this week, although I do want to mention that you had one of your biggest craps wins ever.
I think for Harrah's, Southern California, it was my biggest night ever. Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
And here's the thing. We both were winning early.
Yes.
Quite a bit.
Yes.
And we were both up about the same amount.
That's what's interesting.
Is funny.
Betting so much differently.
So
different
much
amounts.
differently and different amounts. But at one point, we were like within dollars of each other. And we were up quite a bit. And then you did, as you have been doing lately, started betting the don't when the dice are rolling from the other side of the table.
Correct, yes.
And it did nothing but help you.
Yeah, it's true.
It killed me.
Yeah.
And you consistently won. So by the end of the night, I end up, losing a little, and you still are up the same amount.
Yeah, I hovered. From that point, you're right.
You hovered the whole
going
rest
to
of
the
night.
don't on the other side, I ended up hovering the rest of the night.
You would win on the don't, and then you would lose a little on our side. Meanwhile, I'm losing on both sides.
Right.
And I'm slowly going back to even, and you end up basically where you were after we had been an hour, 5 hours later. You're still at that point.
Yeah.
And that was very patient.
Yeah, thank you.
And that taught me a lesson that two things.
Okay.
Number one, that's never going to be me.
Okay.
Because I just can't do that.
Yeah, you even kind of passive aggressively mentioned that on the drive home.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'll never do that, Mark. I mean, I've got some character, and I don't like pissing people off at the table. So
yeah, I was not happy about that. But I realized that that's just not my style.
Yeah.
I can't do that. You can do that. Yeah. And then number two, good for you that you can do that. I mean, I just can't do that. So we have to live with who we are.
Yeah, we do, Mike.
I mean, what choice do I have?
No, you got no choice.
Right.
As long as you come to terms with that, you're happy with that.
This is what we do.
Yeah, this is what we do. Exactly.
That's what we always said.
Right.
Everyone should have a "This is what we do" shirt. In any circumstance, this is what I do.
We've got so many shirts we need to get it going here.
All right. Well, I hope your luck continues.
Thank you. And
Honestly, I do, because I'm planning on borrowing.
All right. And I hope your luck turns around.
Because you might need to borrow it
That's
in
right,
the
yeah.
future, too.
That's right. All right. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
El Cajon? That's the anus of San Diego.